the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Monroe. Today is Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. It is now about 8:02 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the public hearing and the application of Monroe Woodbury Islamic Center seeking variances from Section 200-12, Attachment 4 of the Table of District Use and Bulk Regulations as amended by Section 6 of Local Law Number 23 of 23 to permit a building height of 38 feet where 30 feet is the maximum permitted, and a variance to permit parking between the principal use and street line on which the property fronts, to permit the construction, maintenance, use of the property as a community place of worship. The property is located at 1431 Orange Turnpike in the SR 20 zoning district and is designated as Section 231, Block 1, Lot 3.42 on the tax map of the town of Monroe. The applicant or his representative ready.
Good evening.
Good evening, Frank. Oh, and one other thing. In the absence of Dan Margada, our regular member, we do have our alternate, Mr. Benrose, and he will be sitting in as a voting member on this application. So we'll have a full 5-member board.
Perfect. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Frank.
1 second, Frank, I take that back. Mr. Margada just arrived.
Oh, all right.
And now we do have a 5-member board, and I'm sorry that you won't be able to participate.
So now they have a full board plus one.
We have a full board plus one.
Okay.
Okay.
Start again.
Shoot.
Frank Phillips from the Law Office of Phillips and Millman on behalf of the applicant, the Monroe Woodbury Islamic Center. Present with me is the engineer for the project, is Ryan Nasher. Also the president of the Islamic Center, Mohammed Hassan Mahia, is present. We also have Steve Esposito, who is a landscape architect on the matter, and also the architect is Efron Gobriel. As indicated by the chairman, the variances that are being sought tonight are for the building height, which if it's non-residential would be 35 feet, and we'll get into the details of that new code amendment that was done in 2023, and a little bit about the history, because it would go towards the 5-part test that we're going to go through to obtain the factors in obtaining a area variance, which we're looking for, which would be the building height, and also another amendment that was made in 2023 and bring to the board's attention during the pendency of this initial application. So both the variances that are being looked at for tonight would have not been required at the beginning of our application. So that will go to whether there's a self-created hardship in the test, and I'll get to that a little bit later. We're in the properties in the SR 20 zone. The other variance, just backing up a little bit, is the parking between the principal use and the street line, which was allowed until the local law 23 of 2023, which also amending the building height, which we'll get to in a moment. The property, just a little bit of background briefly, is that they purchased the property in 2015. Prior to that, they were at a rental location, and they purchased this property in 2015, and they've been using the property since then in the SR 20 district, and it's been used as a place of worship. Currently on the 2.5 acres is a dwelling, sheds, garage, and a driveway. That's the present use. Just a little bit of procedural history as to this application, that it commenced back in actually August 28th of 2022. It's in its second year now. There was a moratorium, a building moratorium at the time. They obtained a waiver of the building moratorium on May 18, 2023. The moratorium, there was a planning board review. Informally, the moratorium ended in September 2023, And from May of 2023 to November 2023, the planning board had reviewed it informally 3 to 4 occasions. Then in December, the public hearing was supposed to be in the planning board on November 28, 2023. It was adjourned, and then 6 days before the next date for the public hearing, the code was amended, which brings us to this board. Initially, the planning board referred the applicant to the zoning board, and we were here on March 12th of 2024. Then there became issues because the planning board, prior to this moratorium, had declared themselves lead agency, and now at that time we didn't have to invoke the zoning board. But now, because of the amendments to the code, we had to go before the zoning board for the height in the parking lot in between the building and the street line. So then there had to be a coordinated review. So even though we came before this board the first time on March 12, 2024, the board was unable to take any action because there wasn't a negative declaration from the planning board. So we subsequently had a workshop on March 20th, 2024 with the attorneys and the engineer, and at that point we requested a coordinated review at the planning board meeting. At that point, your hearing was postponed again because there was a waiting period for the planning board had declared itself lead agency, and there had to be waited out to whether the ZBA would either consent to that or would not take any position, and the 30 days had expired, so in fact the planning board became the lead agency for SECRA. Then there was another workshop in May 13, 2024, 2 weeks prior to the public hearing before the planning board, which did occur on May 28, 2024. I wasn't around. I had Amy Mealy cover for me. I did look at the videotape because it was videoed, and they had a public hearing on May 28, 2024. That brings us to yesterday. We were here last night in the same location, and there was a special planning board meeting which went on for approximately 2 hours on this particular project, going through or taking a, quote, hard look at the environmental. At the end of that meeting, we did obtain the negative declaration. So now that we have obtained the negative declaration, which was, I believe, was sent to all the parties, and the attorney for the planning board, Elizabeth Cassidy, did share with Ms. Norton, who's the attorney, your attorney, of course. And now we're before this board on the application for the zoning variances. Just briefly, again, some things that have been submitted to the planning board prior to their negative declaration, which was approved last night, was a traffic study back in August of 2023. We had a landscaping plan that was submitted, a letter from SHPO, which is referenced in the negative declaration that there isn't any historical significance or eligible for historical places. And we went through the environmental concerns, of course, regarding drainage, parking, the aesthetics of the building, the buffering between the subject property and the neighboring properties, lighting, the times of operation or when there would be prayer sessions, and the volume or amount of people that would go to those prayer sessions. As I indicated, the traffic study, and that we wouldn't have any outdoor prayer services and activities, which there were certain conditions that were agreed to last night. So now bringing us to the area variance, which I'll have Ryan get into more detail from an engineering standpoint, is I referenced the 5-part test and whether in fact there would be undesirable change produced in the neighborhood. The situation here is, and what the board had asked at the last meeting when we were here in March of this year, was that if we had to go by the code as it exists now, as amended in December of 2023, the building would have to be up front and the parking lot behind it, and then also there would be a lot of there will be a lot of things that we would have to do that would, in fact, would disturb the neighborhood more so. So our position is that this particular application, looking at the site plan in the surrounding neighborhood, which is a house of worship since 2015, which is allowed in residential neighborhood, the religious assembly was retained in SR 20 zone and also the SR 10 and URM, that in fact we're avoiding having to alter the existing topography. So what we did is, as we indicated at the last meeting, which I think we briefly showed you, that we would show you what it would look like if we had to go by the code as it stands now without requesting a variance, or how it would look with the variance. We would, if we had to go by the code now and we weren't able to get the variances, we'd have to alter the existing topography. There'd be excessive fill. There would potentially be up to 21-foot retaining walls. This project, as we're with the variances, would decrease any of that disturbance to the development coverage, keep the characteristics and the grading of the property as it is now, eliminate the need for the increase in height of retaining walls and light poles, which would cause issues for neighbors, and decrease the, and we're able to, in this application, decrease the commercial look, which would make it blend in with the neighborhood where it exists now. Number 2 of the 5-part test is the benefits sought by application by alternate method other than area variances. There is an alternative plan, but as Mr. Nasher will go through, we feel and submit, and I believe the planning board felt that it was less feasible and would cause more impact in the neighborhood. Is the area variance substantial? We'd respectfully submit that it's not. It was allowed after the last code. We're back here because now there was an amendment in the meantime, and we feel like having the building, the parking lot, and then the street line at that point would not be substantial. Number 4 is adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. No, we feel again that the alternate plan is more adverse if we had to follow the code and have more effect on the physical and environmental conditions. And the 5th one, which usually, this is a weighing test, so you don't have to meet all 5 parts, it's a balancing. But usually in all my applications, the self-created, and sometimes is really self-created, but in this case, we can make an argument that we started this process under the old code. We have to come back to the zoning board because now the code has changed when we were in the process. So we're going to respectfully submit to the board that it's not self-created. And I'll just turn it over to Ryan to get into the details as what it would look like without us requesting the variances and what it would look like now. And also regarding the height, I know I just focused in on a lot of the 5-part tests, but again, the height we're looking for is 35 feet, which is, if it's not residential, would be allowed. And if you look at your code and the new code as amended as to the height, it kind of reads like a Ouija board, so it's not very hard. It's very hard to follow. So we may not even need this variance if we go up to 35 feet, and then there is the, what is it called?
The parapet wall.
The parapet wall, so which would potentially be another 5 feet, but I'll let Ryan get into it. 4 feet. So we're not even sure that based upon what the average height would be, that it's necessary that we request the height variance, but we're doing it anyway just to be safe.
Thank you, Frank, for the thorough discussion. Ryan Nasher from Atzel, Nasher and Ziegler. We are engineers and the surveyor. I'm going to just go briefly about the project, and I'm going to get to the alternative plan and the plan that is being proposed here. Tonight we are presenting Monroe Woodbury Islamic Center. Currently, they are using the site since 2015, which is about 9 years from now. They purchased the property as a residential structure, and the congregation was smaller, and over the years it grew. And now two problems. Number one is the capacity, because a residential site, and now you have the congregation that need more room. And secondly, and most importantly, the existing structure is beyond repairable. So over the years, they spend money to fix it, and at this point, it's not going to work. It's really the point that they have to get a new building. So what is being proposed, they're going to knock down the existing structure and build a new structure. The proposed building is about the footprint, 14,000 some change, 14,248 square feet to be exact. And outdoor parking is provided 111. That is based on the maximum gathering of 230 people. The operation they use on Friday, they have the weekly use. They have the prayer 5 times a day, but the attendance is very low. The low traffic, they have probably 10 to 15. They have the prayers 5 times a day. It's starting from 6 o'clock in the morning. The second prayer around 1 o'clock. Third one around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Fourth one 4:30ish, and the fifth one at sundown at 8 o'clock in the evening. These time variable because of the sunset, the time changes, but typically this is what you're looking at here. They are in and out by 10 to 15 minutes. That's for the regular prayer. On Friday, they have the large gathering, and that is probably about 80 to 120, gathering. So the proposed parking that we've been proposing to the site plan, they're going to accommodate what is needed. They have the large gathering 2 times a year. That is probably our 180 to 200. So typically what happens when the parking lot get full and the congregation is large, they would really hold 2 prayers. Same thing for the Fridays. If the congregation is too much, they would hold 2 services just to accommodate and then the traffic to be maintained. Now, we did the very intensive site plan and went to the planning board, spent time like more than a year. We did the drainage mitigation that provide the underground infiltration. We are taking if you look at the plan, with your permission, if you could really bring it over here so you could really see better, and also over here.
You can bring it up.
Yeah.
Mr. Nash, I really appreciate you going through all this, but these were all planning board issues?
Sure.
Correct.
They were all resolved at the planning board?
We're just gonna we gotta stick to just the,
We have our name
issue
deck.
regarding the parking
Yeah.
lot and location and the height.
I mean, I'm trusting that all the site elements, the drainage, the traffic, everything has been studied by the planning board. They're okay with it.
So,
I appreciate
yes.
the information, though.
No problem. So we received the neg deck last night that really addressed all the impacts. So now I'm going to get to the variance that is needed, which is the height variance and also the location of the parking lot. So what I did for the easier to follow for the board members with permission, I did 2 plans. The plan 1, the first plan, what is being proposed, and the second plan, an alternative, which is meeting the current code. And really, I'm going to discuss about the impact. This is for you. So now, while you are reading it,
Can I just ask you one? Do you have a profile of the
yes,
plan as proposed? I mean, you gave it to us for the alternate, but is there a profile for the current plan?
no, we don't have a profile for the current plan. It's because it's never been. But let me go to see if I can find it in the table.
Because that's what we're looking at, right? The grading
Yeah.
issue between the front and the rear and what you need in terms of cut and fill to implement this alternative plan.
So we don't have the profile for the current plan. we don't have it, but just to give you the, how the grading plan is, really follow the existing grade, because it doesn't propose any retaining wall, working with the existing grade. If you look at the midpoint, it's kind of the high point there, and at the back is really drastically dropped down. We did not change any grade to the back, so the way the building it is at the main floor, and we have the lower level. Lower level kind of follow the grading what is there now, and also the upper floor follow the grading what is there now. So we just kind of work with what is the natural grade, what is there now. And then if you look at the second page, which I'm going to flip it over, that we created a profile to see how it's going to look like if we follow the current code, which is bringing the building to the front and put the parking lot to the back. Part of the problem is you have to have the drainage mitigation, that's for the code. There is no drainage to the back properties. There is an easement that we reach out to the neighbor. The neighbor said, no, we are not interested to give you the easement. That's why we had to bring all the drainage to the front Orange Turnpike to the connection with the drainage that we have now. What's going to happen is it's going to create, number one, a massive backfill to fill the area to the back, and also going to create the retaining wall up to 21 feet to have the drainage bringing to the back. Now it's going to create another problem because of the lighting pole. Because you're going to put the lighting pole is going to be raised up 20 feet on top of the finished grade, and it's going to look like more of a stadium, like, large, like it's like really filled up. And also bringing the building is going to be really exposing. It's like, when you have a building far away versus you're coming, really zooming in, it's just exposed to the front to the Orange Turnpike. So now let's talk about the disturbance. In order for us to create the parking lot to the back, you have to have the retaining wall both sides to the neighbor and the back. Why? Because it's the grade to make the grade works. And that's going to pretty much disturb the entire site to make it work. Versus what we have now is more of we are saving up to 12 existing trees and keeping more of to the back the grading undisturbed as possible, which is really the proposed to the current plan. There. So pretty much over there to the back, we are able to save a lot of trees, existing trees, and not to disturb. So now, when you look at the impact, you're looking at what is really to minimize the impact. Now you're looking at, you have two choices. Choice one is really looking at the plan that really required variance, but it really minimized the impact, and plan works better in terms of keeping the neighborhood and not changing the neighborhood. Why I'm saying that? Because once you have the retaining wall, anybody at the back property there, when they get out, they're going to see 21-foot retaining wall. And that's going to really change the characteristics of the neighbor, and which really we don't want it. And our applicant, they would really like to be part of the neighbor and then working with them, and not to change too much of the grade, not to altering the topographical plan. It's more of a keeping the way the neighborhood looks like right now, like more of a residential look. So we looked at it and really analyzed all the possible options. We believe that keeping the parking lot to the front and building what is the existing building now, it's going to really create a much better grading plan, and not to impacting too much and not to changes to the neighbor's look, pretty much. So
The retaining wall would be around three sides, both sides and the rear?
1, 2, 3. Yes, 3 sides.
But not all the way up the sides, right?
So it's going to be starting from 0,
From
these
0.
2 points, and then the maximum height going to be at the corner there. That's going to be the maximum height. Why? Because this is the lowest point
Yeah.
of the property.
I mean, according to the profile, it really doesn't change much until after it passes the building. Yeah. Like, as you said, starting from zero,
Exactly, yeah.
until you get to the building, it doesn't really change much, and then it starts to go
And
up.
then that, because this is the existing, like you have the topography, it's about 10 to 12 feet drop there.
And you looked into on-site drainage mitigations, like dry wells, and did you do perk tests to see if the soil could handle a certain amount of on-site mitigation?
So we did a park test. They have a bedrock to the back of the property there. So we did 4 locations. One there, actually 5. One there, and one over there. That's 2. We did 1 there, 3. 1 to the front of the parking lot there, 4. And the 5th, what is the underground infiltration test? I mean the underground contact chambers there. These 2 locations, we have bedrocks, so you couldn't do any drainage mitigation, but the drainage is gonna be to the front. So
So the
anything,
two bedrock, I guess.
yeah, if you do the parking lot to the back, we have 2 problems. Number 1, you can't do any drainage there.
Bedrock.
Number 1, number 2, you have to have the overflow. There is no connection that you could really make the overflow. Because the neighbor doesn't wanna give us the easement, and that's it, it's a dead
You
end.
don't have the pitch to get to the road, because there's no drainage lines in the road, is that what-
Correct, we had to really make the pitch, so we could really bring it to the front, to the Orange Turnpike. So we looked at a lot of options, and I think this option is better multiple ways. It's really keeping the neighborhood the way it looks right now, like more of a residential look. We don't want the proposed improvement looks like a commercial look, like altering the topography and bringing the retaining wall up to 21 feet. And then lighting pole on top, it's not, I feel like it's not, there's a better way to design. And we feel that that will be the better one with a lower.
You were keeping in mind the character of the neighborhood, not wanting to change it that much. That's the same way with with the building design too. I guess they had to have it that height rather than,
The height is still in a gray area, is because the way you look at the definition.
okay,
You
no,
could
I'm
go-
sorry, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not trying to say is how you're trying to fit it into the code. I'm trying to say the necessity for it to be that high. Is there a reason the building needs to be that high?
Well, we're, just with the codes.
Okay, no, okay, again, I'm not even mentioning the code, with nothing to do with the code, there's no code. What's the
I think I-
necessity? Because he
the
says he was concerned with the characteristics of the neighborhood, and here we got this 38-foot high building, there's no house that's that high. So I'm
But it's
just,
not really 38 feet, that's what I was gonna say. The applicants, we've stated the height's 38 when the total permitted for the SR zone's 30 for habitable space and 35. However, taken out of that calculation is certain things, the building height exempt is the dome, the minaret, meaning most of the building. I know you're like.
You're not
thinking I'm
even
trying to avoid
understanding
the
what I'm
question,
saying,
But I'm
yeah.
not.
Okay.
Because it will be pursuant to the code under 35.
and
the
that's
35
specifically what
feet.
I said, to not worry about. I'm not saying how it fits into the code, I'm saying, well, let's just add an airplane flying at 38 feet, it's not gonna touch the building, you're saying?
So what he's saying,
Well, I'm not an engineer, but
Right.
you have to, you
So
also
Frank, let
have.
me-
to
Which is why I'm
verify
asking him,
grade, too.
which is why I was asking him, because you're
I
the
know what you're
lawyer.
talking about. He's saying, does it have to be? The answer is no, okay? The answer is no. The one element that we have in the building, there is a mezzanine floor.
Right.
Why? Because the women and the men has to be separated, okay?
Yeah.
And then we look at the ratio, man versus women. You have more men coming to the mosque versus women, so we have the smaller square footage. So they have the mezzanine structure. So even though if you walk into the main floor, you're gonna see high ceiling, but if you look at the mezzanine, they have the correct floor. This is how they determine the height. So
Yeah, I know. Oddly enough, designing an interface chapel and a mosque was part of my senior thesis, but that's all right.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm very familiar with designing mosques, so that's why I was trying to say what was the necessity for the building to be that high, that it couldn't just drop it 5 feet to make sure you'd avoided all the height issues. So you're saying that there was no way that they could have been designed to avoid that?
we could cut back the height. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and then
All right.
it wouldn't need the height variance. I
But
mean,
to be clear, the height that's permitted, I know that Mr. Phillips keeps saying it's 35. The height that's permitted for this building is 30. So then you're saying you could bring it down to 30 feet with the 4-foot parapet?
I think the resident residential is up to 30 feet, if I'm not mistaken.
Is this also a habitable structure?
That whole section is 30 feet plus 35 per,
I'm bringing this up because you said that you're keeping in mind the character of the neighborhood.
35 for what, Jim?
the 5 feet is non-habitable space, so it's your conventional peak roof, that's how they calculate that. So you go height to the peak. This happens to be a flat roof, so you're 30 feet for the habitable space, and then you've got the parapet wall above that, which is your 4 feet. So you're about 34 feet, basically.
So just
We
keeping
have
in
no
mind the
problem,
character.
we could cut back to, 35, and that's, if it's something that you could work about, that'll be.
Because that 4 feet is non-habitable.
4 feet is exempt because it's a parapet.
It's parapet up to 4 feet.
Correct.
But they don't have, that non-habitable doesn't really fit into the section because they don't really have an eave with a.
Correct, it's a flat roof, so
Flat
that is
roof.
your habitable space.
So it's just a high roof, I mean, inside, it's just a high ceiling. That
Correct.
portion, that top portion. Yeah.
We
Well, the
have,
parapet is not part of habitable, that's just the perimeter.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But they're going 35 feet of habitable.
I don't think they're that high, no. They were actually asking above and beyond what it technically is.
I mean, from what I understand is, from what I was reading, is we're going, you got 35 feet to the top of the slab of the roof. And then you have your parapet that sticks up in certain sections.
Well, parapet's one height all the way around, so it's an average from the grades. And I believe that, Ryan, I think it was 34 or 30, the actual habitable space.
the height of the building is going to be?
We have an architect section.
Yeah, we have architects.
There we go.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay.
No, by all means, especially if you're the expert in this factor.
Oh, you know, we sort of changed, Ryan, I'm sorry, we sort of changed fields on you, you know, you were finishing up your
know,
thing. Dan started
it was
asking
my
questions
fault.
about the height, and now we're like sweeping you off and bringing somebody else. I didn't
you
mean
weren't
to
done.
sweep you away like that.
I apologize for that.
here.
You know, I mean, do you want to finish making your point before we move to that, or you're okay? Just-
No, I mean, I made my point, unless you have a question, I would be happy to, I think we've been answering questions.
Answering questions,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so-
in you, now we're into the heights.
Right.
Okay.
Good evening, my name is Ephraim Gobriel, I'm the architect for this project. So on sheet A3.01, just to address quickly the issue of the height, measured from the first floor to the top of the roof here, this is 30 feet exact. Plus the parapet height, which as you see from the 3D here, which is there's on A0.00, the parapet height changes through, going towards the front where the qubla is, this minaret that's looking towards Mecca. And this just has, when I was designing the building, this has a spiritual meaning for this congregation, and I wanted this, growth happening towards, very directional, very, strong architectural language. That was the intention of the parapet changing the height, which is not excessive, in my opinion. I think it just, it's a small pitch to the front.
So the parapet, as you get closer to the minaret, goes higher. That's 4 feet at that point? Go to your A301.
I don't have the exact dimension here on this drawing, but it's around 4 or 5 feet.
And then as you go back, it drops down, it's angled, okay.
Yeah.
The flat roof is at 30, and then the parapet averaged out at about 4 feet.
Yes, and regarding the program, we explained earlier, the program really fits well in this volume. The way the prayer area works, we had to do that double height space for the women to be in the mezzanine area, the men in the main floor. And when you're designing a space, it's not small. The prayer area is like 5,400 square feet, which we could look into the floor plan on sheet. First, level, yeah, sheet A2.02, just to familiarize yourself with the plan, you know, this is the entryway from the parking lot. There's a main hall, and then on the left-hand side, this is more of a functional space for offices, conference rooms, administration. And then on the right-hand side here, this is the larger volume where the prayer happens. So actually, if you notice, the prayer, or this spiritual quarter here, this is the one that we had to increase the height for. If you look at the volume of the left-hand side, it's much lower in height. And then going into this main praying area, it's 5,447 square feet to be exact, based on the architectural plan of this sheet. When you design an area like this, you cannot have low ceilings. You know, it's gonna feel cramped. You know, with that space, with that many people present, it has to be slightly higher than a standard 9-foot ceiling or 10-foot ceiling. So that's why this volume had to be of that size.
So looking at it from the rear,
Yes. So looking,
this
this
is
is the rear
you have the
view.
residential, right, directly across from Orange Turnpike. That portion of the structure looks like it's only about 14 feet high?
Yes, around that, yes.
Okay. Well, I
Section 3.0.
so you have minus 12, so you have maybe 28, okay.
Yes, it's around 14 foot.
From the first floor, right?
Yes, and this is the
But
administration.
you do have a,
The drop, yes.
You do have
The
a-
drops in the back, yes.
the drop, so is that a walkout in the back, or no?
It is. You can walk out.
Oh, there's no profile of the existing, only of the alternate, so we don't really know what it is compared to the other.
So there is an elevation, if you'd like to just, get an idea about how the site slopes and what it looks like from the back. If you look at, I think this is a good view, A3.20. You'll see this, this slope here is, this is the front, and it comes down, and the basement becomes exposed at the bottom, and becomes a walkout basement. And since we're looking at the elevations too, I'd like to highlight the fact that the building architecture on the outside, it's stucco, white stucco, it's very simple. We used Islamic texture, art, typical Islamic art. On the exterior, we utilize the stucco reveals just to highlight these patterns. It's very simple, very easy on the eye.
It's a white stucco exterior.
Okay.
So the variance, if one is even needed, which we'll get to that, would be for that portion of the building that's basically close to the Orange Turnpike, and not the portion in the rear.
Yes, yes. The rear is not high at all.
What's that setback? You're talking about a 58-foot setback. Oh, I see, because the other building is turned, okay, it does come with
Yeah,
the 65 feet or so.
we provided, I think that it's 58 in my plan.
Right.
Looks like
It's 58 to that lower portion of the building, no problem.
Yes.
But the higher portion comes in, the peak comes in, I see. And that's where it goes up to the 30
Yes.
30 feet, 35 feet. Anybody have questions?
It's 30, it's what was it? It's an average of 30 feet to the top of the flat roof on the higher portion, right? And Jim, you said the parapet doesn't count, right?
Up to 4 feet of the parapet.
Up to 4, okay.
And even though parts of it go higher, they take the average of the whole parapet, I guess.
Right, okay.
I guess that's how it works.
I mean, and up to 30 feet is permitted. Sounds like it's perilously close to not needing that variance at all.
Correct.
I agree.
But
Was that,
lot of ambiguity, so we're playing it safe.
Jim, was that you agreeing back there?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Okay.
I mean, if anything, you're talking less than a foot or a foot in the front, that's
Mm-hmm,
probably about it, on that raised up area.
mm-hmm,
And it's in a small area.
mm-hmm.
So on the outside chance that there is any variance needed, it would be for less than a foot, you're saying?
In a very small area.
Right, yeah,
not
right,
in the entire.
Right, and on an outside chance, like if absolutely if possible, I got you.
We didn't
Just
want to
wanted
run
to-
into a situation during the
No, I
construction or anything else, and all of a sudden it's higher, and then we have to come back to you after it's built, so.
Right. Well,
I'd like to clarify something, because my measurement is from the first floor, not the average grade. The average grade
Ah.
is at
Hmm?
-6. So if we calculate it from the average grade, it's 36.
uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
The average grade is taken from points all around the building?
So that's why, because there's a -6 at one side, so that changes it.
But again, this volume, the higher volume, that happens towards the front, which is already high, and, you know, the grading is already a lot
So-
higher.
So seen from the front of the building, it would appear to be a 30-foot
30-foot
building.
building without a
Seen,
parapet.
seen from the rear, it would appear to be somewhat bigger than that.
Actually, because of the drop, yes.
Right, okay.
But I would think, in my opinion, this would look a lot better than a 21-foot high retaining wall.
I was keeping my powder dry on the retaining wall, but yeah,
That's a bit subjective.
that doesn't sound great.
Some people may love retaining walls. I don't know. So, just to put the height issue to bed, I just want to look at the memo that Jimmy Cox wrote on March 11, 2024, where he wants to clarify the height, and he references 200-22A1, and says height limitations do not apply to, and this is where you're looking at roof projections, bell towers, spires, belfries, steeples, flagpoles, radio television towers, chimneys, smokestacks, et cetera, rooftop bulkheads, fire towers, hose towers, provided that such features shall not occupy in the aggregate more than 10% of the total roof area to which they are part. We meet all that, right?
Yes.
And provided that same do not exceed the building height limitations by more than 15 feet. Is the minaret more than 15 feet to its peak? We know?
You're saying more than 15 from the roof line?
Yes.
If it is, I'll bring it down. If that's,
I just wanted to know.
I honestly don't have the dimension on there.
It just
on the
became
plan.
15 feet.
I'm just looking at these restrictions, because if we gotta vary them, we gotta vary them. I just wanted to be clear on the record.
But there's an exempt, it's exempt on
Read
page
the back
4.
part, the second page.
That's the parapet.
No, the second page, minaret is exempt.
Yeah, if you go to the section that actually exempts those, which is the dome minaret stair tower.
That's a separate section than 200-22A1?
So,
No, because you're considering the minaret was something that falls within
go
this.
to one, and then as per the above, the following would not be calculated in the building height, which is the dome, the minaret, and the
Correct, so that's your opinion, that based upon your interpretation of this section, those things would be excluded. And that's why I'm going through them for, because they're less than 10% of the total roof area. They don't exceed the height limitation of the building height by more than 15 feet, and they're set back from the edge of the roof at least 1 foot for each 1 foot by which the features exceed the maximum height otherwise specified for the district. So it sounds like to me that minaret technically wouldn't fall within the exemption because it's not set back from the edge more than 1 foot for every height it's above the height limitation.
It's not higher than 15 feet.
Yeah, but it's gotta be, what I'm saying, it's gotta be set back, so if it's
For
1
every-
foot for every foot that it exceeds the height, so it would have to be set back from the edge
So like, say if
a
it's
certain
10,
amount of feet for it to fall within the exemption, and since it doesn't, since it's right out at the,
for
the
example,
edge.
yeah, for example, if it was 10 feet high, it'd have to be back 10 feet.
right, if it was 10 feet too high, right, okay. I just wanna make sure that we're looking at this right and reading it right, and so if that does need a variance, we entertain the variance for that, or if it's definitely, it doesn't need a variance, and I'm not reading the code right.
I figured that's what it is.
While Jim's looking through the code.
Looks like it's part of A1. As you read the whole thing. That does fall under that.
Okay. So I'm not clear whether you need a variance, do we give you a variance, or we make a determination that it doesn't need a variance and we leave it alone? It's gotta be set back, so you need the variance.
Need the variance.
Technically, you need the variance.
Just for that. Yep.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Ma'am?
So, right now, we're just talking about that dome, that needs a variance. Everything
No,
else
the
is.
dome is exempt.
Oh, the dome is exempt, I mean,
The
you're
dome
right,
is
sorry.
exempt, the parapet's exempt, the minaret may technically need one because it's not set
This
back.
portion.
Oh, the minaret, I got you.
So it's like the top 4 feet.
What?
That's what I was wondering.
This
Does the minaret have to be in the corner?
this is the minaret highlights the direction where the
Mecca.
congregation would be
Yes.
looking into, yes. So it does have
Does
to
have
be
to
in
be in
that
the
corner.
corner.
That's why this entire volume is actually rotated.
Rotating, 'cause it has
Because
to
that's what
face a
people will
certain
be
direction.
looking at.
It's, I mean, it's,
And does a
Small.
minaret have to be a certain,
It's very small in footprint.
does it have to be a certain size, or does it matter?
Um,
Can you have a 5-foot minaret theoretically?
Not on this building. Architecturally speaking, it doesn't look right. It just looks like a
Um,
parapet.
well-
Much of a
The
minaret.
parapet alone is about
In
5
what,
feet.
in what terms are you asking, John?
No,
I
I'm
think
just
you're
general-
asking
generally speaking.
not in architectural terms, you're asking, what does a mosque require? Isn't that what you're asking?
Yes, thank you,
Uh-huh.
thank you, John.
A 5-foot
Oh, thank you
minaret
for-
would
for
not be,
clarification. There's no really rules, as far as I know.
but there's a
I mean,
proportion.
I
that
tried
would
to
go,
learn
right?
about the culture and about the congregation while designing the building, but this was not part of the discussion. But architecturally speaking, this is what I've seen, looking
would-
at.
Minarets go in proportion to what's the structure.
It would be a
It's not-
violation
Little
of the,
church,
of the
it's-
architectural language of the building to make it much
To
smaller,
highlight
is what
it,
you're
that this
saying.
is the focal point. It has to be higher than the parapet.
No, I get that,
Yeah.
but there's no theological, it needs to be this size.
It
Well,
needs
he's
to
already
be
got-
higher, but
Yeah, he's
how
already got
much
the-
higher?
You already got the parapet going to up to a 5
just
foot
have
at
to
one
look at the
point, so it's gotta be
massing
at
of the
least
building,
higher than the
and
5
that's
feet, not
why
by a
we made
little
the
bit, but by
decision.
significance, so we're looking at least 10 feet.
And that corner of the building on which the minaret is located is the closest to Orange Turnpike, and that's 282 feet away from the front property.
Yes.
How would you be able to tell?
Would this be,
282 feet away, whether it's 10 feet high, 15 feet high,
to give, I
8
guess,
feet high?
I think it would be fair to say, if I was to give an example, and for those of us who know the area where that house is right now, this minaret would be twice as far back as where that house is right now.
Yes.
Oh,
So where the house is from the road right now,
Yeah.
this minaret would be almost twice as far back.
See how,
Would
this is a
it?
picture of the existing
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
It's gonna be even further back.
It would be almost, yeah,
where
almost
that
twice.
house is will be all parking lot.
Yeah. Like, do
This
you have
is-
a,
This
yeah,
is the
there it
house
is.
here. This is the existing house. It's
Oh,
located
I
here.
see.
I wish they had
Look
a
at the-
superimposed, but they don't really.
If you look at the proposed, the house is located somewhere around here.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? So like, if
It's
you look at
even
the front of the
further.
house, the
Yeah,
minaret would
it's
be much
not
further back.
twice as
So it's
Fine,
further away.
but
from-
No,
it's
if you look at the
it's
front of the house,
substantially
The front of the
further.
house is 217 feet.
Almost, yeah,
So
substantially.
this building is gonna start another 60 feet or so back
282, yes.
Even more, yeah.
from where the existing house is.
So low. So I thought-
And it's gonna be on the way down.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I
So
thought
it's
the
also
house
gonna
is
be on the way down.
Going
of
up,
the-
I was
of
gonna
the-
say, I'm confused about that, but now I understand this. Okay.
So the property, where the house is right now is like the peak of what the
Yeah,
property is.
it's the top of the hill.
So they're going back.
Yeah, I was thinking it was gonna be on that,
Where the house
Right.
is.
the house is.
That's
No,
exactly
it's
what I
further,
was-
further back.
It's further back.
I was confused because I was thinking it was lower. Now I get it.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? All right, you guys want to add anything else? No. All right, I think at this time, we'll open it up to the public. So if any members of the public have any comments with regard to the application, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and direct your comments to the board.
I'm gonna go through the list.
Yeah, why don't you read off the list?
My apologies in advance.
Okay.
Mohammed Hassan Mia, am I close?
Hi, my name is Muhammad Hassan Mia. I am the president of Monroe Woodbury Islamic Center. Thank you very much for the opportunity this time. We are all here from the mosque, the community people you can see. They are all here not to talk everybody, but to, support this project. They are here. So I will say something very short, not too much. For this property, hardship is an objective, fact-based condition arising naturally from the features that unique to our property and creates an insurmountable obstacle that prevents us from meeting the zoning regulations that we seek a variance from. In other words, we can't meet the requirement because of the way the property is, and so we are looking for a waiver from the requirement. I think our engineer, they explained everything very clearly. Naturally, the building is as is. We did not change anything. So we have some hardship. I'm not going in details, but I'm submitting to the board. I don't want to waste your time. We bought this property as a single-family house, but nobody lives there. People come to pray and they leave 10, 15 minutes. We went through so much hardship to make it as a prayer place instead of a residential place. It was a well heating system, and then we changed it to the propane. Because of the house is more than 200 years old, 25 windows are there, all are broken. So few times, that propane tank was, empty. We even don't know what happened because of the system of the building, the broken windows. And finally, what happened, 6 years back, our whole heating system got frozen. And that was December, end of December. We spent about $52,000 to fix it. And that is from the people's money who is paying high tax. We count every dollar. We beg people to support this to, for the Muslim community who come to pray here. And that was not the end. And what we did, we connected with natural gas. We spent more money. Then question comes, there was a lot of trees around, too old. Most of them, it was inside the parking area and rotten because of too old and branches was falling apart. Then question comes, there is a 3 pillar of above the ground electricity. For the safety of the people, we contact with the Orange and Rockland to put it under the ground, not above the ground, because of safety issue. We spend their money again. And around the parking area, we cut down some trees to make some parking lot. So we went through, a lot of changes, and we end up with the natural sewer connection. We started that one 3 years back. Mr. Jim, he knows. We tried many different ways. From our building to the left, there is a flashing, light. We tried that way. And the mayor, the village engineer, and the highway superintendent, after 2 years, they let us know that it is not possible to cut the Orange Turnpike Road. Why? Because there are so many wiring underground.
What underground?
Yeah, so we cannot cut there.
Wells?
Yeah. So that he said, change your direction, don't go that way. Then we look for another direction, which is next to our neighboring property. We try to contact with them, but they declined. They said, no, we don't want to give you the permission, which is very normal. And the third one is from the property to the right. That one is not allowing the slope, it's going to the little higher side. So what we have to do now, we have to put their sunk pump. For that one, we also spend time and money, which is people's money, which is not done yet. So basically, what we did, we spent 9 years to make it doable for everyone. 7 years we spent to collect the money and to contact with the engineer to find a better engineer who can help us and submit the site plan. So it took us 7 years. And 2 years we are in the planning board for the permission to start the construction. It is delaying and delaying and delaying. So eventually these people who are paying how much they can afford. So our request to the board to help us to approve the variance. And that's all. Thank you very much. And if you don't need, I think the people, everyone wants to talk, but it's time consuming, so
Do you mind if I ask you a quick question?
sure.
Make sure you speak into the mic to everybody, because I just got a message saying people can't hear you, so board members.
Okay.
everybody speak.
I just got a quick question. You were just going through all this. It sounds like you were just investing a lot of money, just basically throwing money at this property ever since you got it. Was there ever a point that you said, hey, maybe we need a different property, especially as your I mean, I can understand in the beginning, as it was explained to me by the lawyer, it was a small congregation, but as you grew and you realized you were getting all these financial troubles, do you ever think about, I'm just curious, if was that ever a thought that maybe we should look for a different property that could be more up to date and not so much trouble?
We did research in this area,
Okay.
but this is the only place that little far from the neighboring house because of 2.5 acre of land. So we decided that this is the only place that can be, we can pray here because the house is a little far from us and there is a little more space for parking. So out of all the places, we realized that that's the only place.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome.
Malik Ahmed.
Yeah, just tap the microphone, hit the microphone for us.
Yes.
Okay, it's
Yes.
on. Just want to make sure.
Good evening. My name is Malik Ahmed. I am the Vice President of the Monroe Islamic Center. I live in the area 30+ years. Know almost every rock of the area, stone and everything. And neighbor as well as have very good relation with the neighbors, except if you have the, otherwise most of the surrounding the masjid, most of the time, last 4 or 5 years, whatever the work we were doing, and I was the man who was there, and they were coming and they were talking to me. The communication was with the, for example, Joe, right there is the one, communication was with me. Mr. Mike was right there. There was another, Patrick. Means almost everybody was coming, whatever their concern, they were talking, and we had that one last 4 or 5 years. Absolutely, and they were very happy that the religious place is the place of the house of God is here, and we are fine, comfortable, good. And see them here because they're comfortable, because they know we are reasonable, responsible people. We have dealt the business here, everything. We know everybody one-to-one, and in this Monroe area, we know that one long time. So means when they come and they talk to comfortable, they don't, right now you don't see that Patrick is here, you don't see the Mike is here, means 7, 8 neighbors. I personally talked to them, and absolutely there was no concern for them. The masjid is not built because they were happy. There was another, I mentioned a few times before, one of the example I can give you, the Mike, Mr. Mike, he's an IT guy. One day it happens that 5 years ago, his tree fell, the Mike. And he came rushing, and that one, he said, what happened? I don't know what's going on here. So the tree fell, and he was all nervous to talking to me. I said, don't worry, but relax. You have a brother? Feel like that your brother property is here. Go comfortable, relax. Well, if you have the time to come, take care of it. But if our guys come, we'll take care of that one. So I can give you the example, the 4 different trees fell in our property. Almost I saved the $4,000 for my neighbor. Not a single penny to that, because we have the guys, we did it. So we saved them for $4,000 their property. And the last of the, the one of the funny thing I was sharing with the people, that's a Patrick. Patrick, I know him almost 25 years. He's the first neighbor. Most of the Christmas trees, he means lights, he puts that.
He's on the corner?
He's in the
Oh,
corner.
he's the one, yeah, we know those
I know
lights.
him 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
25 years, very good. So the funny thing is, share with you a story, because the one of the big tree is in the corner. And we always have a discussion, Malik, that tree is mine. I said, no, that's mine. So we just, the friendly, the one day, the last storm, the tree, the huge branch fell, and as on our property. I talked to the Patrick, I said, Patrick, now the tree is here.
Whose tree is it now?
Whose tree is now? Who's going to pay for it? He said, that's not my Malik. That's, I said, okay.
Get your tree out of here.
I said, no. So he said, okay, I will do. I said, don't worry about it, just relax, we'll take care. I cut it, I have the pictures and everything I can share with you. From the Goldman in the back, history, we cut it. I have the picture and everything, and they were very happy. They says, believe me, and he asked me, when are you going to build this one? I was waiting for this one. This was the Jewish fellow right there behind the nice house. He says, when are you going to build this one? This was his question just 3-4 months ago when the tree fell. This is, I'm just collective, that means I've been, personally, I know I was there, each and every person, communication, I was there. The Jewish fellow bought the big house, they came, and further down there was another. Almost everybody, most of the time, I was spending the time in the property. So I knew that one. So the people are comfortable there, absolutely comfortable, except the one of the person I have, even though the person that they're saying about the light is not issue either. I know that one, and that is that because we have the very small, the congregation, and especially at the night time, sometime 10, 12, goes 15. No need to be worried about that one. So that only the Friday prayer is the time which our engineer mentioned and our attorney, this is it. In the time they come and they go, that's the easy way. Absolutely, this is nice, I know that when the Mansion Ridge was building, they start this Mansion Ridge, that is all the area. So it just, nobody is, there, and now the majority of the people, our masjid, they live in around that area. So that's the reason it's easy for us to question that, we cannot go any
I
place.
was going to say, would it be safe to summarize what you're saying is that your relationship with your neighbors are very important,
Very
and your communication with them is important to you, and you want to make sure everybody's happy going along with this process.
This is what
That's-
we wanted,
okay.
and that's, now, the only thing is 17 synagogues are around, 25 churches are here, and they are beautiful.
25? Oh, wow.
They're beautiful,
that.
they're beautiful looking, and the one masjid is here, so we are struggling for that one to get that one, be the nice and presentable for everybody. That's all, it is the basic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, thank you.
I had a tree that came down
And he's not that far from you either.
I'm only down around Reynolds and up and around.
He's right. You can walk to his place.
I'm gonna come look for you.
You can walk right down there. He's got a guy. That's what he's saying.
Might as well go into business.
Malik Humza.
Alright.
Hi, Matt.
Hello, everyone. My name is Malik Hamza. I'm the son of the Vice President Malik Ahmed. And what I would like to say is this masjid is not just for like the present people nowadays, but for the future generations as well. Like we do not want to go and just drive all the way to Safran just to go to that masjid. For example, like right now, there are approximately 27 churches here in this region and 17 synagogues here. And there's only one masjid here in this region, which is in poor condition, more than 200 years old, and we need a better masjid for our religious education so we can all learn what we need to learn about our religion. And so besides that, we can't just like, as I was saying before, we can't just go to Safran because there are some people who can't, some people who can. But the main point is this is not just for us, like it's for the future generation as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, is it all right if I ask one of them a question? Because he just brought up something that I was just curious about, the number of congregations, because he was talking about in the community. Like Safran is far away. I mean, I know that mosque. Yeah.
I'm going to clear my throat for a second.
Sorry.
Bismillahi salawatu ala rasulillah. So, I don't know any of you, but I grew up in this town, 21 years, went to Rockland Community College, went to local school, graduated from here. To your question, the minaret is same as significant to Muslims as cross to Christians. So, my whole thing is, as a first generation of immigrants, I would like to say that we should be given an opportunity to have a house of worship in the community which is more diversified than any other surrounding town. What it does, it gives us confidence in our community, teach our generation to come, being as a local kid, rather than going 25 miles south or 25 miles north. When I was growing up, I had to go all the way down to city to seek Islamic education. It gives us a great imperative as a community, as a taxpayer, to have this masjid on an orange turnpike, which is full of interfaith community. When you go through it, you swing to your right, you see McDonald's. On to your right, you see what? Pentecostal church. On to your left, you see Catholic church. You go down, probably 500 feet, you see a bar. And when you move up, you see a synagogue. And then you have a mosque. What it does is it gives us an immense opportunity for us in this environment to educate ourselves and educate children who are going to grow in this community to understand, to live in an environment which represents interfaith communities. So I think, and I request humbly, that you should consider us as part of you and give us a chance to show this community, growing up in this community, that we can give back. Thank you.
Musa Jallo? I wasn't close on that.
My name is Musa Jallo. I was born and raised in West Africa, small country called Gambia. I arrived in JFK about 18 years ago with $150 borrowed money. I went to college. I live in the Bronx. Now I have 3 kids. During the pandemic, we moved to Warwick, Orange County. Before I moved, I looked for 2 things: school and a place of worship. In the Bronx, we have masjid everywhere, very diverse. But I still wanted to bring my children away from that environment to Orange County, which is a really good county, 1 hour from the city, and it has village life, it has community life. My children goes to Warwick. My older daughter is a honor roll student. But I also wanted somewhere I can bring them during Sunday, take them off the gadgets, take them off YouTubes, and bring them to the imam and let them talk about God. Recently, I took my daughter, my middle daughter, to the doctor. She wanted to take her side, and she was praying. She said, oh, I forgot what she said. I said, I'm so happy that you're talking about God, because God is important. What I also teach my children is we want to be good neighbors. Recently, I cut my grass, and I cut the grass of my neighbor. My neighbor was in there during the day. And my neighbor didn't know I was with my daughter. And then we have a community online, on social media, and the neighbor mentioned there, I'm not going to go to sleep until I know who cut my grass. I didn't say it until later. My wife saw it. I said, well, I'm not going to tell them, because then it defeats the purpose. So people were commenting, paid forward. So these are the kind of stuff that I was brought up with. This is, and religion matters. I never drink alcohol. I don't know whether it's sweet beer or sour. And that's what I tell my children. I never smoke cigarette. So my older daughter knows what's important to me is helping. I love it. I love helping people. Back home, I help communities. So religion matters. When we go Friday prayers, I take my children when school closed. Right now, they don't get to go because there are classes during Fridays. But during summer, when I go to the masjid, my younger son name is Ibrahim. Abraham, they call him at class. So I take them and they listen, and I want them to listen. And what I learn and what they learn with YouTube, all religions are the same. So in the Quran, you might not know, there's an entire surah about Prophet Jesus Christ. So my daughters were surprised. Oh, Daddy, I told you are Muslim. You don't talk about Jesus. I said, well, you cannot be a Muslim if you don't believe in Jesus. And that's something that the imams talk about. So religion is important. You go to the masjid and you decompress. You talk about, you feed the soul. That's what religion is about. So it's a very diverse community. I'm African, and I meet a lot of people at the masjid. People from all over the world, I can say. So what I know about this masjid, about this community, we want to be good neighbors. And I was listening to the presenters. They mentioned that many times. Most of the presentation, what they mention is about being good neighbors, making sure that we don't disturb our neighbors. We don't want to change the environment, because there are neighbors. Even when I come in there, when I come at night, me personally, I pay attention. When I'm trying to back up my car, I turn off the light, because it beams inside the next door neighbor. I am very concerned about that. When I'm backing up, I turn it off and I back, because I see the neighbors, probably their windows. So this is something that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who think like that when we are in that community, because we want to be good neighbors. We want to show the community what we are about. We want, this is the only masjid here. Last Ramadan, my daughter was fasting. She had friends, and they wanted to fast. So they wanted to copy my daughter. So eventually, this masjid would bridge the gap of the misconception about religion. I can see Monroe kids coming to the masjid, because this happens in the Bronx a lot. Kids go to the masjid because they're curious, and we teach them. So I can see your children, the community, coming to the masjid to learn about the religion. And you said I mentioned that you said you studied about designing masjids.
Yeah.
In mosques. So all of
I
that.
also went to Rockland Community College where they have pluralism and diversity classes as a part of a requirement, and they also have pluralism, diversity, and religion, and part of it is visiting the mosque and stuff.
Exactly. So I can see many children coming to this masjid. We want to equip the masjid. We want to help our children so that when they go out, they become the ambassadors of our religion. Ambassador of our religion is being representing us, being a good person. I mean, we are immigrants. We are very tough on children, but we have to do good. That's what we preach. That's what the masjid preach, and we want to be a good community. Yeah. And I recommend that I'm urging you, like you say, respectfully, to approve this. We really need it for our community, and the entire Monroe will benefit from this masjid. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Khan? I can't try and pronounce the first name. The last name's Khan.
This is me. I don't know. Mansoor Khan, right?
Alan?
Couldn't pronounce it.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I was not prepared for any speech, the same thing again and again. Everybody was saying the same thing. I don't want to make it. I just want to say that we believe in all prophet, Moses, Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, they are all our prophet. We respect them, and we are nothing but Islam is the founder of all Abrahamic. Abraham, we are the followers of Abraham. So I just want to say that we are very peaceful neighbor. I'm a chemist, basically, So I was in Rockland pharmaceutical company I used to work. Then I moved here, and it's a really nice neighborhood. And I thought I'm the secretary of this masjid. So I just want to say that I will be appreciate if you consider us and give us the chance to serve this community as a Muslim member. So that's all I want to say. So I really appreciate for your kind thing. I was not prepared myself, so I'm sorry for that.
No, it's okay. You spoke very eloquently. Very nice. Thank you.
Hafiz Abdur Rahim?
Good evening. How's everyone? My name is Hafiz Abdur Rahim. I've been living in Orange County for about 35 years. I've been a Muslim for 60 years. I was introduced to Islam through Malcolm X. You probably heard of him. He was the first person that I heard really speak about Islam in terms of how he converted to Islam from the Nation of Islam, coming into Islam proper, which we call Sunni Islam. So I just wanted to say that you may know that Islam is probably recognized as the fastest growing religion in, I would say globally. But in particular, Orange County is really expanding substantially. Orange County, when I first moved up here, we had no masjids, or no mosques, as you would say. We had to go down to New York City to pray, and even go to Juma. Juma is our most religious day. So we had to go down there every if you wanted to pray in the morning, like I used to pray in the morning. I used to go down there at 5 o'clock in the morning to pray for the Fajr prayer. Fajr is the opening prayer of the day. The engineer, he talked about the times of the prayer. That's the first prayer. So we had to go down there to make congregational prayer. When you make congregational prayer, it's like you're getting 27 blessings as opposed to praying at home alone. So it's important that we try to pray in congregation. So by us praying in congregation, it enhances our faith, per se. We're in the days of Dhul Hijjah. This is like the third, fourth day of Dhul Hijjah. This is like the 11 most important days of our year of the Islamic calendar. At the end of this the 10th day, we have probably what you heard of the Eid. The Eid is when we have the Hajj. The Hajis are in Mecca now performing their rites of Hajj. And on Saturday, that's the day of Arafat, where all the believers, they come together and they pray, oh Allah, please forgive me for all my sins. It's the most religious day of the year for us. So I just wanted you to know that you talked about the character of the community. Well, think about the character of the people that come to the masjid. We're all good people. We want to be good neighbors. And we want to know that what you're doing is important because you're accounting to what's going to be our legacy in Orange County. Hopefully this won't be the only masjid. This young man said about, we need a masjid. We need more than one masjid. We need several masjids. In Monroe, we should have at least 2 or 3 masjids. In Orange County, we have about 5 now. As I said, when I moved to Orange County, we had only just, no masjids really. We used to come to people's houses and meet in each other's homes to pray, or we would go down to New York City, to 96th Street. Happens to be the biggest masjid down there, so it can accommodate everyone. So I just wanted to leave you with those thoughts, and I just want you to know what you're doing is important. It's the most important time of the year to be making this decision, so I just wanted you to know that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Judge Lisa.
Good evening, Mr. Baum. People who spoke before me are members of the community. I'm not a resident of the village of Monroe. I'm a resident of the town. If you'll give me the opportunity, I'd like to make some statements to this board.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm here tonight because some of you do know me, and when I see injustice, I must speak out. I'm speaking out at the injustice that has been foisted upon the members of this community and going forward and trying to establish a mosque within the village of Monroe. First off, I commend you. Whoever has that cell phone, be so kind as to turn it off to respect this board so they can deliberate and have everybody speak as they wish to. Thank you. I commend this board. It took you approximately 45 to 50 minutes to comprehend the presentation here tonight. The ineptitude, incompetence of the planning board of this village took 2 years up to last night before they could make a determination. And it was very close before they came to that decision. 2 years, 50 minutes to this board. I also have seen the change in this community. By that I mean the village board and the planning board dumping, and I mean dumping, presentations that should be handled by the planning board onto the zoning board. My opinion, this should have never come before the zoning board of appeals. My opinion, and this is my opinion, the legislation that was passed by this village is an ex post facto law. They came before this board, actually the planning board, at a time when the code would have easily passed everything that they're asking for tonight. And if you don't take into consideration, which is entirely up to you, amount of what I call in the law, as you will well know, Mr. Baum, equity. For no other reason, there shouldn't be any reason why this board should not unanimously grant any variance that they might consider that they need, although I feel they need none. One further comment I'd like to make. I happened to read the article in the Photo News, and there were some people who made a presentation about religious institutions in a residential zone. A clarification. Orange Turnpike until 17M is considered a residential zone. There's a Catholic church. Oh, by the way, Their parking lot is in front of the church, not behind the church. There's a Lutheran church. Their parking lot is to the side, not to the back of that institution. Thirdly, there's a synagogue, now the town hall, where the parking lot, is by the side of the synagogue, not in the back. All this is nonsense, and the representation of why they want to put the parking lot in front makes all the sense in the world. And I think there should be not any consideration that has to go back to the planning board. The reason it went back to the planning board last time was brought the zoning board of appeals. You were not here, Mr. Baum. But I made a statement at that time, and I would like to reiterate. You have a phenomenal attorney who represents this board. She's the one that did her homework and informed the planning board the requirement for secret and other matters that they should have considered in their deliberations in the last 2 years, that they only came to the decision last night. With that, I thank you for the opportunity, and everybody have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? None on the list, okay. Does anybody else wish to address the board that hasn't signed up?
No.
Hi, come forward, please.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, just your name for the record.
Okay. My name is Asima Mamsa. I actually just moved here recently, within the last year. We moved here in August. I grew up in the Bronx. I was surrounded by regular education, Islamic education. That's made me who I am today. I'm a first gen. My parents came from India, and they came with one thought in mind. America is the melting pot, where all cultures, where everyone can coincide and be peaceful and be happy together. So I just wanted to approach you guys to discuss why Islamic education is so important to us, along with general education, which is needed. Islamic education has made me who I am today, and when I say that, I want to press on how Islam is not just a religion to us, it is a way of life. It is in our mannerisms, it's in our speech, it's in our actions, it's in everything we do. So when we say, as everyone spoke earlier, we're kind to our neighbors, it is because that's Islam. It's within us, and that's what it teaches us. When we grow up with Islamic education, that's what we are taught. We're not taught to be rude to anyone, we're not taught to be upset with anyone, we're taught to continuously be good to our neighbors because they have rights. That is our Islamic education. Our Islamic education allows us to not be a disturbance in the environment. Our Islamic education allows us to not only focus on a book, the Quran, but it focuses on the rights of the people around us, which when things are brought up about how our neighbors and the importance of whether we'll be a disturbance here, we won't be, because that's innate in our nature to not be a disturbance, to constantly make sure their needs are fulfilled before ours. That's one part of what I wanted to say. Another part of what I wanted to say is, when we moved here, the first thing that we looked for, as an older sibling of 5, was a mosque nearby. Currently, the mosque is 3 minutes from my house, which has been the biggest blessing. My siblings are able to go during prayer time. They're able to go sit, meet the community members in the neighborhood. That was our biggest comfort, knowing that there are people who relate to us in this neighborhood, and when there's no mosque around, you can never have that. So yeah, that's kind of all what I wanted to put up.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, can you just spell your name for the record? For her? Oh, or just write it down there would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Have any other comments? At this time, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all in favor? Public hearing is closed. Anything you want to add, Mr. Phillips? Ryan?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Okay. It's in our hands now. So the public hearing is closed, the presentation is ended, it's time for us to deliberate. Anybody want to start us off?
Well, I can say that by talking with the engineer, I could see that they did exhaust all avenues of looking for alternatives. You know, that was one of the main things I was concerned about, that they didn't just want to foist a plan on us that they thought was the best. He did do perk tests and try to really look for alternate ways of performing drainage on the property. So I'm pretty satisfied that he came up with the best way to propose this site.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't think there's anything to really object to be honest.
No, the only thing I was concerned about was the height, had it had to be, but if it falls within, even like Jim says, if it falls within the scope of the zoning, it's, as long as they make sure they maintain during construction the right height, not like what we had over at the M&T Bank building where they, oops. Yeah. Oops, we made it way too high, but hey, now we can rent it out. But anyway, but you know, I don't see there being a need to offer a height variance, because it's going to fall within it, maybe less than a foot if anything, if everything goes completely awry. But
Anybody else? John?
Yeah, I look at these two alternative plans, and I think, this is a rather substantial variance that's being requested for the parking. The law says the parking should go in the back. I think there's reasons for that. They want to, make less of a burden on the neighbors of a house of worship. But the thing about this property is that your neighbors are in the back. I've been to the property and I have seen that you have more neighbors along the back property line, and you do have neighbors to the front, but fewer. So it makes a lot of sense to me that you would try to move the parking to the front of the property in order to not trouble your neighbors to the rear. The other thing that strikes me about these two visions, alternatives for building this house of worship, is this wall. I imagine this wall that's 21 feet in some places, and to have to build that and do the amount of moving of backfilling and earthwork that you'd have to do to accommodate the plan with the parking in the rear. Boy, to me, that is the difference between a masjid that is of the community and a masjid that is on the community. That wall would make, one of our tests here is whether or not, the proposal is going to produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. What you're proposing, I think, would greatly improve the fit of the masjid into the neighborhood if we had to see that 21-foot wall built around it on three sides. I think that would really set your facility apart from the community, and that is not what you're trying to achieve, and that is very apparent in the presentations that have been made and the plans that you've put forward. So I think because of the unique nature of this property with the drop off in the back that would make it so difficult to put parking back there, with the ability to leave your trees in place, were you able to go ahead with the plan that you want to go ahead with the the ability to not have this retaining wall, if we were to grant these variances, with the moving the lights away from your neighbors, because if we had those lights on top of that backfilled wall, I can't imagine what that would look like to your neighbors, all of your neighbors at the rear of your property. Boy, what a
Everybody
what
will be
a
able to have
sight-
night barbecues without their own lights.
What a sight that would be, and those elevated lights, even though the lights are, we understand that the lights are made so as to limit the lighting to the local, area, but even so, at that height, I do wonder if that's going to be a problem if that were to go ahead. So, I think there are really good reasons that derive from this particular property to say that the parking variance is a really good idea. And I think that there are unique factors at play on this property that suggest that while it is rather substantial variance from what the law states, it is called for in this case because it will in fact accomplish what I believe the law is intended to accomplish, which is that you minimize the impact on your surrounding neighbors. So I think, we have our 5-part balancing test. The very first test, is it going to be undesirable? No, in fact. This will be a highly desirable change that will greatly improve the way the mosque fits into the community. So I think I've touched on most of the, our factors there. Can the benefit be sought by another method?
Not on this
I
property?
I don't know how feasible it is. If you attempted this retaining wall, you just introduce more trouble. So I think that there really isn't another feasible way. Is it substantial? Yeah, I think it is substantial. Can the proposed variance have an adverse impact on the physical environment? I rather think it will have a strongly positive effect on the physical environment in that you don't have to put this crazy backfill in here and cut down all these trees and present this wall to your neighbors. Is it self-created? It is most certainly not self-created. You had a good plan, and suddenly the law is changed. It's one of the very unusual cases where the conflict was created by changes arising from elsewhere. So my sense of it is that the parking, most certainly, we should grant the variance for that. The height, it sounds like the height is fairly minimal for the most part, apart from the minaret, which even there would not have been a problem if the plan had been acted on before the change in the law. So I think I'm inclined to support that variance as well.
And to support what you said, if anything, if they were to do the parking plan as it was allowed, the alternate that they showed, that would actually have a negative impact on the environment because of the way that it would have to be installed, visually and otherwise. And I should also mention that one of the things about this law about putting parking lots behind the buildings or structures is because it's been a study about how the visual impact of parking lots in front up against the roads is less desirable. And going based on that, if they were to do it the proper way, that visual impact would actually be negative because most of the neighbors, everybody is in the back, and they would see this huge retaining wall, whereas this is a single small little commercial parcel surrounded by residentials. The front parking lot would not have the same impact as if it would going down with these shopping plazas with the parking lots up front. So it doesn't, it's counterintuitive, which is why these boards like us are in place to see situations like this where it doesn't work.
To me, it's an unusual property.
Exactly.
It's this kind of property that variances
This is why we exist,
for.
to say, hey, what you're trying to do in the law is not working here. It's actually going to go against what you're trying to do, so
That is my
this is what we're trying to do.
We make it make sense.
Yeah, and they've obviously exhausted every possibility to try to make it work within the law, and it just doesn't. So we have to give them relief if we were to allow them to build this in the actually a very desirable plan. So.
Jim, anything else to add?
I think it's gonna make the neighborhood better. The place was a dilapidated mess on Orange Turnpike, and I think anything is an improvement. They've done everything we've asked them to do, and but not for the law change, this would all be mute anyway. So,
I'd like to.
I don't have a problem with it at all.
If everybody doesn't have anything, I can make a motion if nobody else has anything to say.
No.
Okay.
No, I agree with everything that's said, doesn't need to be restated.
All right.
So I have nothing further to add.
I'd like to move that we grant the parking variance and we grant the height variance on the minaret.
I'll second
Okay, we got a motion to grant, seconded by Jim. Any discussion?
No.
I guess about the only thing I just want to make sure of is that, you know, we're holding them to the height, we're holding them
To the
these-
minaret, right here.
to these plans here, so
Right.
I think we should reference that the height variance is for the plans by Ephraim Gabriel. And are they dated, Ephraim? Do we have a revision date? Oh, there it is. 10/31/2023. And no further revisions, right? I don't see a revision date. Okay, so in the resolution, we'll reference these plans.
Okay.
All right.
There's a
So
second?
we got a motion, we got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No nays? Variance is granted. Congratulations. Take a 2-minute recess, and then we'll, 5-minute recess, and then we'll finish up the calendar.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes
Oh, yeah.
from, what does it say, April 13th? It was May 14th.
Yes, I had to change that. I did have an updated one that I
Yeah,
put
there's
out.
an updated one on the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody have a chance to review those minutes? There was a new draft that went around
Yeah.
late today.
Mm-hmm.
Got it on my,
Any comments?
no, it looks fine to me. It was short.
My comment is these are some very concise minutes. Look at that.
Isn't that good, though?
That's
Yeah.
pretty
It is.
neat.
That's the
Excellent.
way it should be.
I don't think it can always be like
No.
that.
Well,
but it's
no, but
pretty.
it was easy enough.
You set
Next month's minutes look like
Yeah.
after this public
Yeah,
hearing.
show us your power here, Claire.
For
Let's see
for
if
a
you got
half-hour
it.
meeting, this was very concise.
Right.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dan,
I'll second that.
seconded by
John.
John.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my pen? I got one here. Good. We got that?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so those are approved. What else we got?
And we're all allowed to vote on it, right? Because were we all present at that May meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
I
just
was,
wanna make
yes.
sure.
Doherty, Lenari, Margada,
Oh, one quick,
Brown. Yep.
I'm just for my own personal notes here. We all approved the mosque, right? There was 1-all, right?
It was 5.
Yeah,
5-0.
5-0,
Yeah.
just making
Yeah.
sure. 5-0, 5-0. Thank you, just making sure.
Okay, next thing, old business. There's no old business?
I just have this for you to sign. It's an invoice. That's all.
New business, that new application didn't come in, huh?
No new applications have come in as of yet. July 8th is their cutoff. There may be 2 that will come in.
July 8th. No. The cutoff for the July meeting is
Has
today.
already passed, yeah.
Passed, right.
It's passed on the 4th.
So we have nothing on the agenda for next month.
Nothing on the agenda for next month, no.
So should we discuss adjourning it right now? or do you
Yeah, I
wanna
think
come
so.
together to
No.
just
I
approve
would-
minutes?
we don't have, I mean, the resolution?
Minutes, and it would be a draft
Resolu,
decision.
yeah, draft decisions, that would be it.
So you want to come together and get that done?
I will be absent. I will be on vacation.
Is there a time crunch on it? Could we postpone it to the next month, or would it just be?
Does it make a difference?
I don't think it really hurts them because we'll give them a notice of determination. and-
All right, then maybe
They
we
can
should,
proceed, right?
then we should
Yeah,
probably
yeah, I
adjourn
don't
it
think we're
then.
holding them up.
Okay.
Then we'll,
No, the only thing it stops is anybody who wished to challenge the draft decision, it wouldn't become effective until that decision is done.
Right.
oh, okay. I don't think any
Some
of
would
us.
argue it's the minutes,
So-
some would argue it's the determination. I'd argue for the last one, so I get the most time.
So I'll motion to adjourn next month's meeting
Okay,
then.
so since we have no new applications, we're going to cancel next month's meeting. So that's the July 9th?
Yes.
July 9th meeting, we're going to cancel.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.